Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions, and I am here to talk about a topic. It's going to be applying for U.S. citizenship. At the point that you're ready to apply for U.S. citizenship, you have had your permanent residence for the required amount of time. And now the next step is to make sure that you meet all the requirements and then go ahead and apply. So I'm going to talk about those requirements, and then I'm also going to tell you what to expect during your citizenship process. Now, applying for citizenship, you can't just immigrate to the United States and become a U.S. citizen. Usually, when you're immigrating to the United States to live and work here, you're coming here on a work visa, or you're coming here with permanent residence, meaning you get to live and work here permanently and it's renewable every 10 years. Now, once you have had permanent residence, you have to have permanent residence for 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen, and you've been married to the U.S. citizen for 3 years, or 5 years. Generally, the most common one is 5 years if it's anybody else. If you've served in the military for 1 year, at least 1 year, then you could naturalize that way as well. Now, once you have determined that you do meet this requirement, so you've gotten your green card, you have had it for the required amount of time, the next question is, do you meet the other requirements? So are you at least 18 years old? Do you have good moral character? Now, with good moral character, I would say the rule of thumb here is if you have had any arrest, any legal issues in regards to law enforcement, arrests, citations, misdemeanors, felonies, anything at all, no matter how minor it may seem, you need to make sure that you get legal advice about how it could possibly affect your citizenship. While not all types of arrests, not all types of convictions can affect your eligibility, some can, and you want to make sure that if it can possibly threaten your eligibility, that you have a fighting chance by understanding what you need to show in order to have a better chance of succeeding and getting your citizenship. But don't panic yet, right? So if you want to apply, but you've had a past arrest, you've had a past conviction, you've had a felony, misdemeanor, my rule of thumb is check to make sure that you still qualify. Now, in some cases, you may still qualify, but you will need to show that that you have overcome what happened in the past, and that you do indeed have good moral character. Now, once you've gotten past once we've decided you have good moral character, the next thing is, have you been here continuously? So have you maintained physical presence in the United States for at least half of the time? So if you're required to have permanent residence for 3 years, have you maintained physical presence for at least a year and a half? If you are supposed to be here for 5 years or gain permanent residence for 5 years, have you maintained that for at least 2.5 years? That means if you're physically outside of the United States for more than that time, you will likely have a problem, and you want to get legal advice about how you're going to overcome that issue if possible. There's also continuous residence requirement. So physical presence is one requirement, continuous residence is another. And with that, you do have to show that you have maintained continuous residence in the United States. And usually, if you've had more than 6 months outside of the United States, there is that presumption that you've abandoned permanent residence, but you can challenge that to still get an approval. Once it gets to 365 days that you've been outside of the US at any time during the past 5 years, during the past 3 years, that is a denial. Because they've assumed that you have abandoned permanent residence and you're not eligible for citizenship, but you can still wait it out for 4 years, so 4 years and 6 months in order to make that up and then apply again. So all is not lost. You just have to wait wait until the 4 years and 6 months passes, and then you could apply again. So let's see. So got 6 months probation, no jail, and got deported. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you have, it depends on the crime. That's why I said no matter what kind of arrest or conviction you've had, whether it's a misdemeanor, whether it's a felony, whether it's something minor in your mind, it's important to get legal advice because it comes down to the facts of your case, and not necessarily the the crime itself or the time that you spent in jail, right? There are some misdemeanors. So for example, in New York, forcible touching can be considered a crime involving moral turpitude. And forcible touching is considered a misdemeanor in New York in some cases, but yet under immigration law, it's treated a lot more severely. And there are other types of criminal conduct, and it depends on the state law. How does the state describe it? What's the criteria or the requirements in the law for a conviction? And usually if you have done something that would lead one to believe that you are you have been convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude that goes against your good moral character, it's going to be a depraved crime. It's going to be something that's a type of criminal conduct that's reprehensible. So very important that you get legal advice from an attorney who can tell you exactly what to expect and how to challenge that. Now, my green card interview is taking forever. Since 2020, I applied. So yes, there is a backlog and they are taking a while. So hang tight and check on your case. Make sure there's nothing. So let me see here. How does the I-601 form work for a person who overstayed? So with the I-601A, now this is for the provisional unlawful presence waiver. If you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent who will experience extreme hardship without you if you don't get the green card, and you only have unlawful presence as your immigration violation, this may be for you. And it forgives the overstay, forgives the unlawful presence, but then it doesn't mean that you're going to spend the entire process getting your green card in the United States. You will have to still apply for through the embassy, and once you're granted the waiver, you can go to the embassy. That's a provisional unlawful presence waiver. But if you're already outside of the United States, then you're going to use the I-601 waiver for unlawful presence. So Ayana, all they're giving me is extension. I'm getting so frustrated. I understand. So, right now, because of the backlog in processing times, I like to describe it this way. It is a marathon, not a sprint at this point. So anybody who's going into this process should know that they're not going to, I know you've been waiting since 2020, but with the pandemic, with everything going on, processes are taking a minimum of 18 months to 24 months, 2 years, and even more for you to get through. So Perseverance is going to be key here. Persistence is going to be a key here. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep on top of your case to make sure that it's still good. And get legal advice and representation where you need assistance. Can someone travel outside of the US with their visa while waiting for their green card? So usually when you're doing adjustment of status, at that point, you're going to need the travel document. Because adjustment of status, you're expected to stay here until your process is complete, unless you apply for a travel document that can allow you to leave and then return. How much years to get your citizens in a marriage base? 3 years. You have to be married to the US citizen for 3 years. And then you also have to have your green card for 3 years as well. How you know when to submit your support, like you can understand this document, qualify, how long. So Nilanjona, I'm not sure. Can you clarify that question? Stephen, thanks for sharing the live. I appreciate it. So, Joster, if you've been applying since 2014 for VAWA based on domestic violence, you should get legal advice at this point to determine what may be going on in your case. You may be well outside of the processing times. Please, can you explain a 221G refusal visa? Thanks. So it's with the 221G, usually if you don't have strong ties, so they don't believe you have strong ties to your home country, they'll give you this refusal to say they don't believe you have strong ties to your country. So if you come to the US, they believe you're at risk for overstaying, and so they don't issue that visa. Winix, thanks for the love. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the roses. All right, so I'm going to finish up the citizenship topic about citizenship. So I touched on some of the criteria, the time requirement. So 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen, that you must have permanent resident and be married to the U.S. citizen for 3 years. 5 years if you are going to be, if you got your green card through any other way, like through an employer, through another family member, or other ways. It's going to be 1 year if you served in the military for 1 year or more. After you've determined you qualify, then it is, do you have good moral character? Do you have continuous residence? Do you have physical presence in the United States? Are you at least 18 years old? Once you meet these requirements, all is well. The next step is to apply using the N400. When you submit this application right now, I'm seeing processing times ranging from 2 months to 6 months. A few of my last cases took 2 months. So now is a good time to apply because they're really trying to push the citizenship applications through. Once you've applied, then they're going to do biometrics, or they're going to reuse your old biometrics. And then during that time, you should study, because there's going to be an English reading, English writing test, and also the civics test. So you're going to get 10 questions in the civics test. And usually if you go to the USCIS website, you will get the questions to study. You can go ahead, study those 100 questions, and you'll get at least 10 of those questions, a maximum of 10 out of the 100 questions to answer. These are not going to be multiple choice. They're going to ask you, and you have to say the answer off of memory. So very important that during the months that you're waiting for your citizenship interview to be scheduled, that you're studying these. And you could just play it. There's a USCIS app with study app. And then there's also MP3 recording on the website, and then other materials to use to review those questions. When you get those questions, if you get at least 6 out of the 10 right, you would pass the civics test. When it comes on to the reading test, they will ask you to read a simple sentence. So there are many people in California is an example of a question they may ask you to read. They may also ask you to write, there are many people in California. So they could ask you anything, but these are the types of things that they would ask you to write. And if you write successfully in English, you read successfully in English, then you'd be fine. There are exceptions to the English reading writing test. If you are a certain age, and you've been here for a length of time, then you may be exempt from the testing. Or if you have a disability that's preventing you, or an illness that's preventing you from achieving any of these tests, then there's a special form that your physician can fill out to show that you're not capable to take the test. Once you get through those tests and then the officer verifies your application, they're going to go through many of the questions. In some interviews, I've seen officers go through line by line through every single question. And then I've seen some, they go through the most important aspects of the application. Then they ask pointed questions to make sure that you qualify in every way. And once they're okay with everything, they will pass you. Hopefully that's going to be the case for you. So they'll tell you on the spot whether they will recommend naturalization or they'll recommend approval. Now, there are some cases where they may think they need more information. So once again, if you've had a conviction, if you've had a past arrest, they likely would want to see the arrest report and they want to see the disposition of the court. That's the judgment or the sentence. So you'd have to make sure you have those with you at the interview, but don't be going to the interview and doing this on your own at this point. You need to get legal representation to understand the repercussions, because believe it or not, some people have just gone in and applied on their own and they end up getting a notice to appear after their citizenship and interview, a notice to appear in immigration court for deportation, because there were things that were brought to the forefront to the officer's attention that let them know, okay, you have this issue. Not only don't you qualify, but you're deportable. So very important that you pay special attention to detail. Make sure you get legal advice to understand the repercussions or the consequences of each and every aspect of your background and the application. All right, so that is going to be it for me tonight. I'm heading on over to Instagram to continue this conversation. Let me just see here. So I see some more. I'm just going through to make sure. Hi there, daughter of Zion for life. It's nice to see you. Hi, I applied for green card on marriage base. I got work permit and social. My interview was December. So good luck. I'm not sure what happened in your case, but make sure you, if there are any issues in your case, that you schedule a consultation. You can do that by going to the link in the profile. You'll see all the options you need to get in touch. Please, can you explain good moral character? So good moral character is just showing that you meet the moral standards of the average person in your community. There's no set definition, but it basically means that, right? That based on the standards within your community, you're a decent person. Now, certain criminal conduct and even non-criminal conduct can go against your good moral character. For example, failure to pay taxes may not be criminal, may be criminal, may not be criminal, but that can go against you. Also, failure to pay taxes, infidelity, are two non-criminal things that can get you into big trouble in citizenship. Criminal conduct is going to depend on the state and the crime and the facts involved. So if you would like to explore your option to get citizenship despite having an issue like that, give me a call. Let's see what happened and see if there is a way to still apply for your citizenship. All right, so I'm heading on over to Instagram. Instagram is where most of my content is. It's The Immigration Attorney on Instagram. You can go there. You'll see videos throughout the day, tips, updates. So go there, join me there in a minute, and you can continue to ask your questions. So I hope to see you in a minute, or I hope to speak with you in a consultation. Have a good night.